You were in Mercedes-Benz Stadium on the sideline for ESPN Radio. I want you to go back because you and I talked prior to the game. We talked after the game. Just the transition from Jalen Hurts to Tua Tagovailoa and the decision that Nick Saban made. Does it mean anything different as you look back 200 days ago when Nick Saban made that decision?
No, not really, and it didn't surprise Georgia either. Mel Tucker, I've known him for a long time, going back to his days as a defensive backs coach at Ohio State when he was part of that national championship team and staff in 2002 when the Buckeyes took down Miami. Meeting with Coach Tucker a couple of days before the game, they were expecting to see Tua and not from a schematic standpoint as far as anything different outside of the ball coming out of the wrong hand, as I like to call it, right when you get those lefty quarterbacks in there. But you didn't. Alabama didn't catch Georgia off guard with it, but it did, and it didn't surprise me to see the move because I had you guys also in the semifinal game against Clemson in the Superdome, and when I was talking to Coach Saban before the game for our pregame hit, I asked him what's a scenario that we might see Tua in this game at quarterback for Jalen Hurts. And he said, all depends on how the game plays out. And if we're not putting up points and we're not moving the football to our liking, then, we will do and make changes, not just at the quarterback position, but any position that's going to give us a better chance to win the game. And obviously it didn't play out that there was a need to make that change in the Clemson game, in the college football semifinal. There was a need in the national championship game. And just like he said, going back to the Clemson game, if a moment presents itself where we need to make a change at any position to help us win, he's not afraid to do it. They made it in that particular game. Rest is football history, and it's one of the greatest title games we've seen.
Let's go back to the narrative. What if Nick Saban loses a championship? Because I have no doubt if Tua Tagovailoa doesn't play in that game in the second half, Georgia beats Alabama by a pretty big margin.
I wouldn't be that definitive about it. I mean, people forget that Jalen Hurts. I mean, it's almost like he's just like fans across the country in Tuscaloosa, just college football fans in general, are kind of hiking their leg on a young man that was the SEC offensive, not rookie of the year, right? Player of the year 2 years ago, and leads them to a title game. And then last year also leads them to a title game. I mean, that young man is a natural-born leader. He didn't just forget how to play the position. Now, but at Alabama, when you have something rolling like they do right now, you're going to have other guys that can also play that position. And they had the luxury of making a change that provided a spark. And it wasn't just Tua also. Remember, Najee Harris comes in, another true freshman. Who leads the team in rushing in that game?
He did.
True freshman. Who makes the game-winning catch? True freshman.
Alex Leather, one on the outside at left tackle.
So you look at it, it wasn't just that one change at quarterback. Harris all of a sudden became your running back, not Damian, right? So the true freshman who was at 18, I still don't know. I mean, look, I've talked to guys like Ben Hartsock, who's here, who won a national championship at Ohio State in 02, played 10 years in the NFL. He said, in my 10th year in the NFL, I didn't look like that guy at 18 years old. I mean, it's just, I don't know if Alabama is spawning players, right, underneath in the bowels of Brian Denny, but I mean, he also had a huge impact. So my point is, it wasn't just that one change. There was several different changes that also led to it. That was the biggest one and the one that is also most memorable. But I'm not going to sit here and say that Jalen, after all the big games that we've seen him win, right? I mean, remember, go back to previous year against Clemson. He did his job. They just left, 2 minutes and 13 seconds on the clock. But his side of the ball got the job done. It was the defense that gave up that natty. So I'm not going to say that he couldn't have gotten it done. And I'm not going to say that he wouldn't have gotten it or could have, either way. But people forget how good and what kind of a leader he was going into that first half of the national championship.
All right, so look ahead. 46 days away from Alabama Crimson Tide football down in Orlando against Louisville. Your thoughts on this quarterback, quote, competition? How does Nick Saban manage
it's going to be a competition. There's no doubt in my mind. And I think when Nick Saban gets here tomorrow, he is wanting that question to be asked in the big media room right off the jump. Because nobody delivers a message to his team better through the media than Coach Saban. And I can almost promise you the answer when he gets asked about Jalen and Tua, right? And the competition. It's going to be, we have competition at other positions. It's not just the quarterback position that we have battles going on. I mean, what about left guard? What about at running back? He's going to go on down the list. But all you guys want to do is talk about Jalen Hurts, and you can hear it right now.
Oh, sure. I can almost hear it as you're saying it.
It's going to be a message delivered not just to those two, but to every player on that roster. When camp opens, you better have your legs ready because it's competition at every position, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where you've got, 3 starters coming back? And you already lost your best edge rusher, I think, in Lewis. I mean, that young man was ready for a breakout season, and who was a guy who was not a household name now outside of Bama fans, but was going to be, in my opinion, a household name across the country for college football fans come late November.
Yeah, I mean, he looked like he was chiseled out of. I mean, we're so close to Stone Mountain, Georgia.
And Dylan Moses, get ready. I mean,
he's a stud.
I mean, great story from Rashaan Evans on Dylan Moses at A-Day when I was there getting ready for the NFL draft, just to talk to Minka and Rashaan and a couple other guys. And Rashaan told me that, so I looked over and Dylan's wearing 32. I'm like, wait a minute. When did that happen? And Rashaan said that, CJ passed it down to him, and that Dylan Moses, that went to Rashaan and said, can I wear 32? And he said, little brother, I'd be honored for you to wear 32, but you cannot embarrass or disgrace that number at that position. And and I said, and your confidence level goes at an all-time high. That dude is not going to embarrass that number. So those are other names, right, that no one's really talking about. That Saban, when he gets here tomorrow, I can promise you, when he gets that Tua and Jalen Hurts question, the message that he's going to deliver through the media, when he gets the question he's waiting on, it's going to be a podium slapping, hey, enjoy your last couple weeks, boys, because when you get here, be ready for competition at every position.
But really, when you think about this team, this schedule, it's going to have to be – because I think this team is going to be dynamic. I mean, and the schedule sets up so favorable for Alabama that it's going to have to be the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is going to be where they're ironing out the kinks rather than on some of these Saturday games. I mean, they've got a very favorable schedule. I mean, it's hard for me to sit here and amp up Louisville. We talk about Vegas experts. They've got this game at like 29.5 points.
Well, we have a choice for our ESPN radio crew that I do the games with Bill Rosinski and former UCLA quarterback David Norrie. And it's either Louisville, Alabama, or Washington, Auburn.
Oh, I go Auburn, Washington.
It's not even – I'm like, why is this even up for debate? Because it's the champs. That's 40-10 written all over it. So, oh, yeah, I put my vote in. We'll be right back here in Atlanta for two teams that'll – Washington will be top 5. Auburn will be right around there in the top 10, I think. Right? Maybe top 15. But there's no question that's easily the better game. And yeah, to try and get fired up without Lamar Jackson, and a Louisville squad. I mean, it's that's one where, and that's another aspect that Coach Saban will use. You think this because the guy who won the Heisman and went in the first round, to the Baltimore Ravens, isn't here. I mean, he'll be harping on that as well starting tomorrow. I mean, and nobody delivers a message to his team better through the media than Nick Saban.
It's going to be fun to watch it. I hope we see some steam coming out of that head. I hope we get this.
The Tua Jalen Hurts question will be a podium slapper, and I cannot wait to watch it.
But really, that will be the one that is planned. But how?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
That's the one.
He already knows how he's going to answer it and deliver the message to the rest of the team.
But when he goes in these rooms, because he's going to get tired of answering the question, and that's sometimes when you get your best content, your meat and potatoes for Nick Saban, is when he goes in these little rooms and he gets tired of answering the question, and then he's going to jump, and that's when the steam is after like 2 hours of Jalen Tua, because he
see if you can get him to do it sitting right here in the same seat that I'm sitting in.
You never know, man.
Don't. You're right. You're right.
And it's that it doesn't really. And I know what people will look at it from a reporter and they'll be like, "Oh, that's a bad question." No, it was just that Nick Saban was tired of answering the same question. But it's a different room, and those reporters need their answer in front of a TV camera that they didn't get in the other room. And We hope we get an explosion. We love rants in Tuscaloosa. I know people mislead that, or they, Nick Saban hates you guys. Man, I'm sitting there in the front row cheering on rants. Come on, Saban. Come on, give it to us. And, he loves ranting, and we love for him to
Like I said,
rant.
and a lot of those are calculated. And because he knows what question that he wants to be able to deliver the message that he wants driven into the team, especially when they get a little on a high horse and start, thinking that they are maybe better than they truly are, and he wants to knock them down a notch. That's another one of his patented. Let me deliver a message through the media to you guys that think that you are all this because the team of last year won it. That's another thing you're going to hear. This team has nothing to do with last year. Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa that's last year. This is this team, this version of Alabama football has done nothing. Zero, zilch, 0 and 0. Winless. That will be another, I can mark it down. That will be another thing that you will hear Coach Saban talk about tomorrow when he's asked, about last year coming into this season. We've heard it before. This team, this version, has not done a thing. That was last year's team. Totally different.
It's almost become where we're predicting what Nick Saban has said. I mean, he's very in those ways.
Well, there's young guys that haven't heard it yet.
Right.
There's younger players that have not heard any of this before. Freshmen coming in, guys that arrived in spring, had guys that he's even recruiting. I mean, he is a mad scientist, and nobody does it better in this kind of setting than that dude.
All right, let's go to Kirby Smart. What do you expect from Georgia? Can they duplicate?
Yeah, I think so. I know some people are down on them. I don't know why. And I know they lose Roquan Smith. They lose a road grader up front. You lose Lorenzo Carter on the outside. I get it, but guess what? They have recruited very well also, and they've got young guys that are ready to step in. Obviously, losing Michelle and Chubb is going to hurt, but they've got Harrion. I mean, they've got DeAndre Swift can fly. Holyfield has got muscles in his toenails. I was asking J.R. Reed earlier today, their hard-hitting safety, about Aaron Rodgers swimming with sharks. Did you see that story?
I did not. Yeah.
Dude, go Google. He has a fear of sharks. Yes, Aaron Rodgers, quarterback, Green Bay Packers, folks. And the Discovery Channel came to him and asked him if he would want to go swim with predator sharks without a cage. Him, Lindsey Vonn, Ronda Rousey, Mark Cuban, and one other. I can't remember the other one. That all went and did this. They went off the Barrier Reef off of California, where the depth goes to like 1,000 feet. And there's great whites, there's makos, there's blues. Those will all bite you. Those are predators. It's like, 2 of the 3 will kill you, right? And Aaron Rodgers has this fear of sharks. And so he actually did it, got in the water, with this shark scientist who told him, whatever you do, if a white comes up to you, Miyagi that thing. Do not take your eyes off of it because predator sharks will attack when they see their prey is not engaged and looking at them. My thought is, well, what happens if one comes up behind me while I'm staring at this guy? Oh, right? I mean, come on, dude. Well, anyway, the point is, when it comes to Georgia, I'm asking, guys like J.R. Reed, who's replacing these guys like Michelle and Chubb? He said, and I brought up that story, he goes, let me tell you right now, if there's one guy on our team that would get in the water and beat the hell out of a shark, it's Holyfield. Have you seen Evander's kid? He looks like the Najee Harris.
He looks unhuman.
Dude, yeah, and that guy coming at you, toting a rock. If I'm a safety, I'm going to do it. I got help. I mean,
I'm going to go low. I'm going to go low.
Looking around me. So point is, they have gotten to a level almost like Bama where you lose Chubb, you lose Michelle, you have Harrion, you have Swift, you have Holyfield that are. You talk to their coaches; those guys are ready to come in and start playing and making plays now and then. Jake Fromm, man, you go back to quarterback. That dude is just. We're talking about leaders. That man is a leader.
Pretty amazing. All right, so let me ask you about Dabo.
By the way, week 2 at South Kakalaki. That is one where, and I've got that game on ESPN Radio. Georgia at South Carolina. That is one also. Just kind of circle that one. On a Saturday afternoon, you might want to hunker down around 2:30 Central Time. That's going to be a CBS game. That one is a dandy that could tell a little something about those two teams early on.
You think South Carolina has a chance?
I think South Carolina is pretty damn good. Big fan of Jake Bentley.
All right. So, well, look at what he did with that team, with that roster
absolutely.
last year. Wow. All right. So let's go to Clemson here for a couple of minutes with Dabo. Do you think this is on another crash course with Alabama and Clemson?
Yeah. I mean, they're one that mark it down. I think there's about 12 to 13 teams that you can put realistically in the college football playoff conversation. I think that the Big Ten has got preseason, keyword there, preseason, 5 of the top 15 teams. Wisconsin's going to be better than people think. Michigan State's going to be better than most people think. And you got Ohio State. I mean, I think Michigan's going to be better, especially if they figure out that quarterback deal. And then Penn State still has Trace McSorley and company. The Big Ten is going to be much better than a lot of people think they're going to be. So there's a few teams out of that conference. Just go ahead and put them in your around 12, 13 teams that will be in the hunt for the college football playoff. Go ahead and mark down Clemson. I mean, are you kidding? They have any quarterbacks on that campus? Speaking of quarterback battles, it's going to be a pretty damn good one, over there at Clemson. So Dabo's got that program like we're talking about with Georgia. You lose one, who's next, right? Alabama, you lose, 8 starters on defense. Come on, boys. Here we now. Hell now. Here we go. Come on. Who's next? Same thing going on at Clemson right now.
It's so different to see that program when you look at it, and it talks about how it can work in a lot of different ways. Dabo runs it at 6 o'clock. They're going home. I mean, he coaches Little League baseball in Clemson,
it's a Bruce
South
Arians
Carolina.
thing, too. I mean, that comes from Bear Bryant. Bruce Arians, from his days when he was the OC at Alabama back in 1998, we have stayed in touch for years and years. To this day, he's a dear friend, and one lesson he learned being a young coach under Coach Bryant's, one of his final last staffs at Alabama, is you coach him hard and hug him harder. And his big thing when he was with the Arizona Cardinals in the NFL, my brother is an assistant coach for the Detroit Lions. And my brother's a grinder. My brother is one of those 21-hour, 22-hour Nick Saban-type coaches. Grinds away. That's the only way he knows how to do it. Bruce Arians once told him, looked at him and said, if you can't get your work done to get home to your wife and kids by 7 o'clock, I don't want you on my staff. You're not smart enough to be on my staff. And that's how some guys do it, are just wired differently. Dabo is that Arians way. Get home to your family. If your son's got a Little League game at 6:30, you better be out there watching your son or daughter play at 6:30. I mean, and get your work in, get it done, and get out. I want a fresh mind. Some other guys, like my brother, I think he's an idiot personally. I mean, but to be grinding like that, I mean, that's just not human, man. But they do it, and both ways have been shown to win.
Sure, it's so unique when you're around Clemson. But I kid you not, on the way home from the radio station, I can go by, and we're talking about late May, early June, and I can go by the football building, and that black Mercedes is still parked there at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'm talking about not in October and November when everybody's doing it. We're talking about in May and June when nobody's doing
grinders. They're wired differently. They just are. They're looking for if an edge rusher twitches his right pinky.
Yeah.
Right. 3 times on 3rd and short. I mean, it's
amazing.
They both ways have been proven to win. Neither one is right. Neither one is wrong. If the results are what you're looking for, and that's W's on the field.
Ian Fitzsimmons, ESPN Radio, that you can find him there. Ian Fitz, ESPN. You hear him here daily on Tide 102.9 very, very often. Ian, appreciate you, man. Thank you again. Appreciate
always, man. I always enjoy the invites, enjoy the visits. I head to the Industry Irish Pub for me. That's my old haunt now. So I open that joint, don't you?
I didn't know that.
On Greensboro, the original with Trip Rogers, Mike McInerney. Yeah.
Now, I know about food. Okay, I mean, obviously, it's pretty.
Right there with you, Coach.
Okay.
My wife's like, when was the last time you saw your boots without a mirror? I'm like, honey, I'd heard.
The Mexican lasagna that they serve is, because they do the meat.
The gold sauce.
3.
Gold sauce.
Oh, it's, I don't know
Come
what.
on now.
I mean, listen, I can tell you the favorite places.
Trip, take care of my man. Next round's on you when he rolls in, okay?
All right.
Take care of him.